Hello, everyone. We are back with another episode of WWBTD. What would the behavior team do? We are back from Thanksgiving break, and we have the wonderful guest with us, Michaela Lane Spiegel. We are going to be covering some CRE mindsets and other work that we'll get to in a moment. But again, I wanted to say hi again to Jen, Shalonda, Joy, and Ashley. So thanks, everyone. We're back. So before we get started, and I'm Kate. Before we get started, I wanted to start with an icebreaker as we always do. So what is everyone's favorite holiday drink? Shalonda, I'm going to start with you.
Gonna have to go with eggnog.
Classic. I was hoping someone would say eggnog.
Yeah, first thing that came to my brain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
eggnog. Mm-hmm.
Joy, what about you?
Well, I was going to say it depends on which holiday, like 4th of July, I'd probably say margaritas or something. But if you're talking about like a winter holiday, I actually have a tradition that I've been going on for, I don't know, maybe 15 years, that the night before Thanksgiving, I always have friends over. Didn't do it this year. And we have cranberry martinis.
Ooh, lovely. Okay. So yes, to clarify, winter holiday.
Yeah.
Ashley.
I'm gonna have to go with Shalonda with eggnog. I was thinking, like, what is it that I'm most excited for when this time comes around? And it is eggnog.
So I have to ask,
What's that?
booze or no booze?
I mean, it depends on the time of day.
There you go. That's
Am
a
I
good
sharing with
response.
the kids or am I not?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Michaela, what about you?
So I think my favorite holiday drink is a Kir Royale. And I'll just a little background, my mom, my sister and I, and now my daughter all go to high tea at the Brown Palace once a year, right around the holiday season. And they always offer a Kir Royale as part of their starter. And so that's, I think, my favorite.
That's incredible. I actually, my grandma introduced me to Kir Royales, and I've also gotten them at the Brown Palace, which is so funny because it's my fancy drink.
Yes.
Awesome. Jen.
I would say definitely champagne. I love champagne. I only drink it when there's some sort of celebration or holiday, and it's my favorite. I like the bubbles.
Wonderful. Versatile. You can really go for any holiday. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. It's not like I necessarily look forward to this every year, but muddled wine is coming to mind. It's just those spices, and makes me feel warm inside. So yeah, or a hot toddy. I guess we're going alcoholic right now. So sorry, folks. Okay, so let's get started. Michaela, we're so happy to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do for DPS?
Sure. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Michaela Lane Spiegel, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. I work on the Teacher Pathways and Development team. So in a nutshell, we're a small but mighty team who oversees the training and development of anyone who wants to become a teacher and is completing their student teaching experience or their learning experiences in Denver Public Schools. And then in addition to that, we also work with new teachers, so early career teachers during their first 3 years of teaching, really helping to make sure that they are ready to design and deliver rigorous, culturally responsive instruction on day one. And when they're not ready, then helping them with the coaching and training to get there so that we have successful outcomes for students.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually, at first, when we first were doing this podcast, I wasn't sure if I had met you before, and then I realized that I had actually helped out with some of those presentations at the beginning of the year, and it was really cool to be a part of. And so I know that there has been a kind of new focus on anti-racist work specifically. Do you mind kind of talking about that shift that DPS kind of decided on?
Sure. I'm happy to just share a little bit about what our team is doing. And a component of that stems back to what we do in general with this idea of overseeing the development of pre-service teachers, that's what we call them, and then as they move into early career teachers. And one of the things that we end up doing is having a new educator welcome for any teacher that is new to Denver Public Schools. This past year, it was around 700 plus individuals, and we did all of it remotely, and thanks to the support of the Behavior Barriers team, who helped facilitate those sessions. I think that's what you're referring to, Kate.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we decided this year was that we really needed to address systemic racism and oppression that occurs, that is occurring and has occurred throughout time, and really start to not walk around or talk around the subject, but address it head on from the get-go. And so two of the sessions that we created and therefore require one of them for induction purposes is called Building Culturally Responsive Classroom Communities. And that one is the required one. The second one that is an extension of that is Building Culturally Responsive Relationships with Families. And in those sessions, we really address how to create a classroom culture that is where the teacher, the person who is facilitating the learning, really addresses their own cultural identity and biases, and therefore is open to thinking about not if I'm racist, but how I'm racist and how that impacts the students that I'm working with in my classroom and the families that I'm working with, and how do I show up every day to ensure that I am creating a space that is culturally responsive and leaning towards or moving towards being an anti-racist environment. So.
Wow.
I know, I was going to say the same thing. Wow. Michaela, you and I worked together a little bit, but one of the things, well, first of all, on a personal level, I feel like just working with you has started my own journey of being more actively anti-racist. So thank you. Even in just some of the words that we choose, just being really, really aware. And sometimes it feels like it's a little bit stilted in the conversation, but I think that's okay that we stop and pause before we use words that we may or may not know could be hurtful to somebody. But what I was curious about is if you could explain, because one of the things I love that you get passionate about is the rigor.
Yeah.
We're not going to compromise the education just to be, we're not going to compromise the expectations of the academics to focus on something else. So can you tell me a little bit about how you guys integrate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there is a misunderstanding about what it means to be culturally responsive and what culturally responsive education means. And one of the main components of that is holding all students to high expectations and ensuring that they're receiving engaging instruction and rigorous content, and that we're not I guess what I want to say is, in addition to kind of this idea of having a multicultural classroom and a classroom based on social justice values, in addition to those two things, in order for instruction to be really culturally responsive, it has to be rigorous. It has to allow for students to grapple and engage with content and be the leaders of their own learning. And I think that as someone, as a white person and as someone who is a former teacher, it's very easy to get called into this profession kind of with the guise of being, a white savior. And part of the problem with that is that oftentimes then we don't hold our students of color to the same expectations that we do our white students. And that therein lies a huge problem. And so in an effort to address that, we have to include the rigorous component of this and the instructional component of this, of culture responsiveness, in all of our work.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Did DPS notice that there was, well, obviously there's that achievement gap that we're all addressing. Is that sort of where that stemmed, that idea of introducing more rigor? Did that come?
I want to be very honest and sincere that this is not just our work. It's work that we have, that is built upon the thinking and ideas of others. And so was it last year? It was either last year or the year before, we started at Central Office to do a book study on culturally responsive teaching in the brain by Zaretta Hammond. And so that truly is her work, or the idea that we have to encompass the rigor and the learning that students do as a component of and not separate from culturally responsive education. And so I believe that just in kind of that work, and with Susanna's leadership and her vision of breaking down the historical patterns of inequity, we kind of took it upon ourselves as our team to take it and run with it, right? So, and no longer let it be kind of on the side, right? So here we're going to focus on all these things, but on the side is this reminder that we need to be culturally responsive. And instead, has to be a way of life, both personally and professionally. Everything we do, we need to start addressing head on racism and oppression, and how that in and of itself impacts our public school system and our student outcomes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what you mentioned about the rigor piece. And I don't think, I know we spoke about this before before today, but I don't think it really hit home until just now. Like, it just reminds me of, some of our trainings as a behavior team. We talk about, understanding what's going on beyond our classroom and what's going on for these students, and, to pay particular attention to our students of color, right? And so, I feel like that would be so easy to slip into, like, oh, but they have this going on, or, this student, I don't know. I just think that's such an important reminder that, like, yes, have that awareness, but don't lower your expectations. I don't know. That's really touched a point for me.
Sure. I mean, we don't, what good does it ultimately do for our BIPOC students if we aren't believing, first of all, that they bring so much to the table, they are so smart, and that they have the skills and the knowledge and the abilities to grapple with rigorous content. And I think that, Kate, what you said is super important. And I don't want that to get lost in this conversation either, that we have to 100% recognize that public education and DPS is built on white supremacist cultural values. And so, everything we do we have to be reminded of that lens, and understand and recognize the impact of oppression, systemic oppression, that occurs with our students, on a daily basis. Acknowledge that, and then also, how do we then use that to, I guess, energize what we do around making sure that they're receiving really engaging, high quality instruction on a daily basis, and that at the end of the day, it's about equitable opportunities and equally successful outcomes.
I have a question for you, Michaela. Back to that, the expectation of rigor in the classroom. Can you say what are the components of a rigorous classroom? Like, what does rigor really mean? Because I think a lot of times people confuse rigor with rigidness. and they
Yeah.
think that rigor means just more work, right? Harder work. And it's like, that's not it, right? So can you kind of explain what does rigor actually mean in a classroom?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my personal opinion. I'm not sure that, I think there probably are varying opinions around what, defining rigor in the classroom. But I think for me, you're absolutely 100% correct, Ashley. It is not about rigidness, and it is not about more work. What it is, it's about allowing for students to take the lead for their own learning, and have I think creating that environment where students can take risks, where students can grapple with challenging instruction, where it's not scaffolded to the point that it becomes where they don't do the work anymore and the teacher is doing the work. But also it is not meant to be a sink or swim scenario, right? So it has to be just enough scaffolding where at the end of, the lesson or the instruction, the success criteria is still met. How students get there and like the ways that they use their brain and engage with the content may be different and probably should look different depending on the type of learner you are, your background, the different assets you bring to the classroom. But at the end of the day, it's having success criteria and ensuring that all students get there. And making those opportunities equitable. They're not equal, they're equitable opportunities. And so that's going to look different for everyone. But I think coming full circle, it's about me as a teacher being the facilitator of the learning. I think one of the things that we talk about, and then I promise I'll come full circle. One of the things we talk about is getting rid of the term classroom management, because the only thing that you are managing as a teacher is yourself and how you react to what's happening in the classroom.
I love that.
The rest of the time, you are the facilitator of the learning. And so that is how I envision kind of a rigorous classroom operating, where the teacher is the facilitator, but the students are the leaders of their learning and take responsibility for getting from point A to point B with a little help or a lot of help, depending on what's needed.
I love that.
Michaela, I'm curious, you talked about energizing teachers, and especially you said like the pre-service and then the early career. So how's that looking? Is everybody jumping on board, or most people?
I think great question. It's been hard to gauge this year because this is such a unprecedented time, right? And so I think teachers in general right now are doing what they can to make the most of for lack of a better term, negative situation. What I can say is that the work around building culturally responsive classroom communities and really pushing our pre-service teachers and our early career teachers to think differently and unlearn what they themselves experienced in education and relearn how to go on your equity journey and how to apply that to the work that you're doing, and how to restructure a classroom where you are the facilitator, not the manager. I think all of those things have received really positive responses from our early career teachers and our pre-service teachers. And I think as well, the more part of this work is about diversifying our teacher workforce and making sure that we are getting the right people in front of our students. And that means teachers who look like our students, teachers who speak the same language, teachers who come from the same communities and the same backgrounds. And I think that what we've been able to communicate there has been overwhelmingly, we have received so much input around thank you, like finally, thank you for someone, that you're saying this, that you're calling this out, that you're, really unlearning and relearning, right? Like we're all doing that, or most of us are doing that, and that's a message that we want to just be really clear about.
I'm curious about a lot of things. This is like so fascinating. I love it. I was a classroom teacher in Florida, but it's been many, many years since I was in the classroom. And in terms of like, do you know, maybe these, you don't know the answer to these questions, but do you know whether like colleges are really like, are we working with colleges to kind of, help find more teachers to help bring them in, and what's the word I'm looking for, just to bring them into the program so that we do have like more cultural, like a broader spectrum of cultures as teachers. And the second part of my question is in terms of this is different, but it's curriculum. I'm just curious if you work with anyone in like curriculum, and like what are we, if you know whether DPS and what DPS is doing towards finding curriculum that is more unbiased and like culturally aware. Those are, it's two questions.
Yeah, great. So yes, the answer to your first question is yes. We work with teacher preparation partners across the Denver metro area, the state, and even outside of our state, we have some preparation partners in universities that, where students want to do their student teaching and their field experiences in Denver Public Schools. There are varying levels of the how our different prep partners can pull in diverse candidates into their programs, but we have made a deliberate push on all of our preparation partners that this is a goal of DPS, B, it's a goal of our team, and C, it should be a goal of yours. And so, we continually, I think, kind of put pressure on.
Okay, Jen, those are such great questions. And I just, like, this conversation is just, I feel like it's just sparking all of us. It's, I don't know, just, this is such a heavy conversation and such an important conversation. And Michaela, I just think about the brave, courageous conversations that you must have on a daily basis. And that's sort of one of the push for the behavior teams. A lot of times we have to have conversations that aren't easy with staff to move them into a better place to handle challenging behaviors. But I think you probably do that 100 times a day. So thank you. Thank you for that brave step, that brave walk.
Yeah, I think if I can say, and my internet was unstable there for a minute. So I'm so sorry, Jennifer, if I didn't answer your second question. I apologize about that. It just popped up. Your internet's unstable. Anyhow, I do want to say that in all of this, like, my equity journey has not been easy, and I wouldn't be where I was today without the people of color that are on my team and in my life who believed enough in me to take it upon themselves. And that is a huge burden, to take it upon themselves to help me grow and develop over time. And our team is very small. We have read so many books. We try to read, a book a semester, if not even a quarter. And we have really honest and difficult conversations around what we're reading and the impact, again, that oppression has, on our colleagues of color, our students of color, and, our communities, our BIPOC communities. So, yeah.
I would love to hear your book list. We're our behavior team is just taking on a book study as well, with the same focus. So I'd love to see your list and compare.
Yeah, absolutely. I am more than happy to share. I can do that offline or on, like, right now. I can tell you what we're currently reading, White Rage, and this is, I think, like the fourth probably book kind of in a series of books that we've been reading. So, but it really documents the historical every time there has been Black advancement in our country, it has very, what's the word? Thoughtfully, in a negative term, but thoughtfully and manipulatively been pushed back or taken 2 steps back every single time there has been any advancement. And it has to do with the Supreme Court. It has to do with the laws that we put in place. It has to do with politicians and leaders. And it's never truly talked about in history the way that we're reading it now. And I think, Jennifer, that maybe goes back to your question about curriculum. And I know one of the things that DPS is doing, I don't work, we're just talking about rewriting history. There's a group of students at DMLK that is doing a lot of this work and really thinking about how to reteach history in a way that is not biased towards, white privilege and white supremacist values, and instead is the truth, the real truth.
That is so exciting that you're incorporating the students.
That makes me so happy. That's so cool, honestly. Like, it makes me want to go back to teaching and want to learn, all of this all over, all the new curriculum.
Yeah, and the credit goes to them. That is all
Wow.
DMLK and the students. That doesn't have much to do with our team, except that we are certainly really proud of them and we'll do what we can to push that thinking forward.
That's incredible. Is there, if let's say, a school team really wanted to kind of dive into this anti-racist work and, maybe, they just, I don't know, kind of want more direct reminders or feedback or training, is that something your team can offer, or, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things I should clarify about our team is it's less direct, one-on-one contact with teachers and more about, aside from the new educator welcome, which is, all of our new teachers coming together, and then we directly can, influence and their, experience. We do work with instructional leadership teams. We have new teacher ambassadors. We also work with mentor teachers. So every one of our pre-service teachers in the district has a mentor teacher. And so we try to do this get this messaging out at that level, at the, instructional leadership team level. And so certainly schools can come to us if they would like this additional coaching and training. But we also really are trying to start at the ground up, right? So all of the new teachers coming into the district are required to participate in this session with the hopes that we're starting right there, and then also then kind of trying to do the top down component of it as well.
Right. Strategic. It makes sense. That's awesome. That's amazing. And I wanted to also ask you, I know that, you were mentioning getting more people of color in front of our students to be teachers, ones that are from this community. Does that tie into the para to teacher pipeline work? Yeah,
absolutely. So one of the initiatives that I'm driving more personally is the para to teacher pipeline. And one of the primary goals of that is to diversify our teacher workforce and recognize the talent pool that we have already in Denver Public Schools. Our paraprofessionals oftentimes come from our communities. They are 65% people of color, oftentimes bilingual. And so we are working hard to pull from that talent pool where they're already working with students and they're already working in our schools. So why not help them take the next step, those who are interested in becoming a teacher? And so we know that the financial barrier is the number one thing that keeps our paraprofessionals from becoming teachers in the district. And so our team, with the use of Title II dollars, has begun to break down those barriers by offering tuition assistance to any paraprofessional that enrolls in one of our teacher preparation programs. And so we offer tuition assistance on a semester basis. And we also offer a stipend for individuals when they get to their student teaching experience and don't have the income of their para role, that we can then give them something to work with while they complete their student teaching towards becoming teachers. So yeah, it's a project or initiative very near and dear to my heart. And we got it off the ground last fall. So we're going into our second year now with this, and hope that we will continue to develop the talent we already have in DPS, and then ensure that we are diversifying our teacher workforce.
That is so awesome. That just filled my heart, like totally. Wow.
Yes.
All I have to say.
Yeah, it's really exciting work.
Kudos to you. Yeah. Keeps you like motivated, and I mean, please continue to do it. That's so fantastic. It's awesome.
For any paras who are watching or listening, if people are interested and, are you the person to contact? How would people kind of get involved with this?
Sure. Yes, they can contact me. I think the best thing to do is actually to go to our Commons page. So we are housed under the academics division in general. And then from there, my little team is under teacher and leader learning. But if you go to our DPS website and you search pathways to teaching, it will take you to that Commons page. And from there, you can click to the para to teacher programs page, and that has all the information. It gives paraprofessionals the opportunity to see the different programs that we're partnered with. There's a PowerPoint on there that gives more information. There's multiple ways to ultimately figure out which program is right for you. And then, of course, they can reach out to me with questions once they've kind of navigated the information a little bit. But I'll never not respond if someone reaches out to me directly.
No, that's great information. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank you, Michaela, for all of the work that you're doing. It's really incredible and a lot of work, actually, when it comes down to it. I just also, I appreciate the reminder as well to keep this anti-racist work at the forefront of what we do. It is an active process and practice. And as you said, it's not just professional, it's also personal. So, so thank you.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge my team. I mean, the work is really the work of my whole entire team and our people of color who have come before us and really started this work. And I just want to make sure that credit is given in those spaces. So,
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for having me. And I am so sorry I froze, everyone. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It is, as you said, indicative of the times. No worries at all.
But this has just been such a pleasure. I am so honored to be here. And I just can't thank you enough for letting me get our message across to a broader audience. And really appreciate, Kate, you calling out or finishing this conversation with anti-racism work is really important, and it's more important now than ever. And so it's not something that we can forget about or put by the wayside. It has to be at the forefront of everything we do and all of the decisions that we make.
Couldn't have said it better. All right. Thank you so much, Michaela, for being with us today. Thank you, everyone listening or watching. This has been another episode of WWBTD. We will see you next time.
See you later.
Bye. Thank you. Michaela, come back.